shorthand for. These four pillars inform the proposal that I am going to write. We are going to do this. We're going to do and um, strategic communication and brand storytelling, crisis communication, reputation management, media engagement and stakeholder influence, and capacity building and digital innovation. Because it is very, very important for you to note that if you're going to lead an organization, for example, or you're going to take shape and take a stand with your career path, these there's always a need, like we started from the beginning, for you to be deliberate with your communication. Crisis is going to happen. Crisis come in different fold. That's a whole different conversation. Crisis could come in the shape of someone that said something about. Let me ask you guys this very, very funny question. Sometime in 2024, during the time of the former Minister of Women, I mean, of course, remember the former Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Ayenaya or something like that. Talk to me. I can't see you guys, so I'll need somebody to talk. Like you guys should speak. Just talk to me, like I said. Is anybody there?
Yes, we are loud and clear. You are loud and clear. We can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Oh no, that's not the question I'm asking. So how many of us remember the former Minister of Women Affairs?
Actually, I cannot remember.
Hmm. She was always on the news. She was always on blogs and always on the news. Anyway,
Okay.
let me drive the point I wanted to drive. So I remember that in 2024 there's this thing we do, there's this flagship convening that we do in the institute called the Conference of Commissioners. So every
Okay.
year we bring together all the commissioners of women affairs from across the 36 states of the Federation. We bring them down to Abuja to influence their policies in their state at subnational level and then align it with the federal as well. What are they doing in the states and how can the federal help and how can it form a synergy? So
Mm.
that last in 2024, I remember there there was a joke that the minister made. It went viral anyway, where she said something around the lines of if you and your husband you're having an issue, when he's angry, it's not the best time to talk to him. Yada yada yada, something like that. She yapped about that. And then she then concluded by saying, tomorrow the media will say I say you should not argue with your husband or talk to your husband. That's not what I'm saying, no. The next day on the news, front page headline, Minister of Women Affairs says you should not argue with your husband. That was the headline page. And it was very annoying because we had coordinated that media internally, and the minister was mad at us. Now that was a crisis situation that needed to be
Yeah.
managed. Now, like I said earlier, so many things. There are many ways to address a crisis. There are two ways basically to address a crisis. It's either you speak or you're silent. If you're speaking, there are multiple layers of what you need to do. If you're silent, there are also multiple layers of what you need to do. There's active listening, there is how long you should be silent for. There is the need, there is also, do you want to flood the media circle with a new narrative that will then overshadow what you don't want anybody to be talking about? And we know that the Americans do this a lot. Like, for the most, it's not even just the Americans, what am I even saying? Even the Nigerian government, look, I've done political communication, I did political communication a little bit for some time. And I know for a fact that if we don't want certain narratives to fly, there's a way we can then flood the narrative. Sometimes you see politicians become absurd. Like you are wondering, why are you behaving like this? All of it is to drive your attention from something that they don't want you to see in the first place. Sometimes, anyway, not all the time. So that's crisis. And we of course we addressed it in the best way that we could, and it left it ended. But then what that also helped us to do was to update our crisis communication strategy to account for certain changes, which is a very important thing that you do as you do your strategic communication going forward. Media engagement and stakeholder influence is also very important to note that it's also a part of your job to engage with the media and influence stakeholders across all ramifications, whether it is the top shelf or the bottom half of the stakeholder matrix. Capacity building and digital innovation is also important to train as much as you can, just to make sure that people understand. Communication is not just the job of a department or a person, it is the collective responsibility of everyone that you work with. Although, even in your family, communication is not just your job, it is the job of your mom, your dad, yourself. Everybody is playing that active role in ensuring that the family is seen in the light that the family wants to be seen. Let's move. So, understanding what your brand is. In terms of communication, what you stand for, what do people come to you for, and what impact do you want to leave? Could you identify your values, principles, and causes or ideas, and the causes or ideas you consistently support? You are not jollof rice. You cannot be everywhere every time. So, and you're also not jollof rice because you cannot be Ghanaian and Nigerian jollof. You have to be one. You have to be one jollof rice at least, at the very least. So it is very, very important to note what you stand for as a person. If you stand for nothing, you fall for every single thing. And you do not want to fall for every single thing, every single day. You want to make sure that you are consistent in your belief structures and that the entirety of your actions are built on, on ideology and not the whimsical caprices of whatever it is, wherever it is that the wind is blowing at any single time. You have to make sure that you plant your feet firm somewhere and stay there. And this is what will give you integrity in what you do. This is what will make you say no. You know, I usually say this, yeah. The example I'm about to make is probably not the best example, but I think it's the most relatable example. I I would 100% always prefer a terrorist to a bandit. Why? A terrorist has an ideology. They have what they stand for. That means you can negotiate with them. There's a reasonable, if there's an unreasonable thing that they're asking for, but there's a reasonable way of approach to it that you can use to strike the balance. A bandit just wants money. Money is not an ideology. And you cannot negotiate with a bandit because if you negotiate with a bandit, for how long will you keep giving them money? At least with a terrorist, you can adjust certain things and make a compromise if they are willing to compromise. If you are not extreme. The point I'm trying to make is if you do not have a firm belief in what you do, you will not last long in anything that you do. Because it's why you see a lot of, now for those of you, I'm going to assume that for some of you in this particular training session, you guys are in the CSO space. You're young advocates and young development workers, and you are very excited about the opportunities that are ahead. And one of the things exciting that is very, very exciting for most of us are going for trips and going for workshops abroad, traveling. But I put it to you today that that's a very shitty way to live your life, honestly. I know people that we started out our careers together and they are still jumping from plane to plane. No career progression, no clear synergy. There's nothing you can see that you say, okay, oh, this person has moved from low management to mid management to high management. Before now, I used to have an organization, Center for Development and Advanced Learning, that I wanted to push forward. But then eventually I said, no, there are a lot of organizations that are working already. I primarily want to do communications. So I'll go work for those organizations just to contribute to my quota. Now that is me. That doesn't necessarily have to be you. But the point is, if your goal is to travel from place to place all the time, you are not going to build a stable career with your life. It's very, very imperative for you to always remember that. Trust me, traveling will come. Right now, I am tired of airplanes and hotels as it stands right now. First quarter, so from last year, I started a new rule in the office. First quarter of the year, if you want to put me on the plane, I'm not going to answer you. I am tired of traveling as it stands right now. I've not traveled to a lot of countries, but at least I've traveled to a significant handful of them. You get to a point where you don't even, but of course, the realization for the easiest thing for you to do is then build a career first to that point where you become somebody that is required, that people will beg you. You don't even have to apply. People will be asking you, please take a plane ticket and come to us. And then you can pick and choose the ones that you want to go for. It is very important to stay focused. So what do you stand for? Stand for something. What do people come to you for? Uh, within your immediate circle, identify the problems you are known for solving and advise people seek from you repeatedly. Sometimes it is important to note that you do not necessarily see the trajectory of your own path. So you will need the help of people around you to be able to design and craft the messages properly. So, what is that problem that people always come to you to solve? Sometimes you can be deliberate about it. But then other times, note the things that come to you very easily. That if anybody wants to solve a problem or they need somebody to do something, this is what they will come to you for. They will come and meet you and say, see, help us do this thing. That becomes part of your brand and communication. And what impact do you want to leave? When you're tired, old and gray, what do you want to what do you want to be satisfied with? Define that kind of change. Define the kind of change or outcome you want your work and your presence to achieve. I have a mantra for personal development that it's just two words: die empty. Now, what that means for me is so the most of where I am today as a person, there are a lot of people that have contributed to my career development, my personal development. And if those people get kept the knowledge that they had, I wouldn't get here. So the goal is I will teach as much as I can, whether it be for money, or whether it be for free. I often do not mind, depending on how my schedule is at any particular time. I will teach for free at every single time just to make sure that people can understand what I know. And I don't want to have to be on my deathbed and say, oh my God, I'm the only person that knows this. I want to have been able to impact lives around me. So, what impact do you want to leave? It will also form a part of your own personal brand identity. How to tell your own story. Tell stories that reflect who you truly are, your values, beliefs, and lived experiences. People connect with what is real and not what is rehearsed. Um, Most of the time, when do not try and force certain things when you want to communicate about yourself as a person. Stick to the familiar path. From the familiar path, build from there. And there's a difference. You know when people who have experiences speak, people who do not have experiences when they speak. Because when everybody is speaking and sharing their experiences, you get to see that there's too much ambiguity in the things that they say, and rarely any context to any of their information that they are passing. So in your leadership journey as a person and as everything that you're doing in terms of communication, build on the build on the reality of who you are rather than the things that you want to rehearse that you want to share. It becomes way easier for you and then it flows better. Your story should have a clear message. Avoid jargon. Um, Avoid jargon or vague details. The audience should immediately understand what you do and why it matters. Now, don't understand here that audience is anybody you're talking to. And story here doesn't necessarily mean it has to be Mr. Ibu and Ukwa inside, or Jason Statham or Shaolin. Story here could be a simple thing about explaining your job and why it matters, explaining who you are and why you should be in a particular place at a particular time. You see this, especially talking about why your story should have a clear message and about jargon and vague details. If you're applying for jobs, and you're applying for jobs, there's a particular question that is very consistent. Um, Who are you? Tell us about yourself. Tell us about yourself. And a lot of people flock this question. Take it from someone who has been in both sides of job interviews. Right now, I am recruiting for the institute right now. We're recruiting some staff for the institute, and we've been doing a lot of interviews because we're recruiting about 50 something staff for the institute, and we've done a lot of interviews between January and now. And it is very interesting to hear when people get to that particular question of what they say. Really, it's you get to see the ones that are reading, they are reading something, or the ones that they've rehearsed what they want to say and then they forgot their line of thought. And then you're often fascinated by the ones who actually know who they are and what uh, they're saying. If you understand your craft as to what you're doing, if you've not lied in your application about your experience, when I'm interviewing you and then you're speaking to me, I can hear it in how you feel. For example, if I'm in a job interview and someone asks me, now don't forget, now, let me give you guys, let me deviate a little, but let me give you guys this clear advice. A job interview is one place you have every right to brag humbly. You have the right to brag humbly. What do I mean by that? When I ask you who you are, that's not the time I want you to be modest. I need you to, because I'm going to go through 10 candidates that day, and I need you to stand out for me. I need you to tell me something that I would remember. And it's very, very important that you always have that at the back of your mind in how you resonate. Laugh with, smile when you're talking with the interviewer. I'm using job interviews because I'm assuming that this is probably one of the most intense position any one of the people did from demography of the persons in this. But this is one of the most tense position that you're going to be in right now. I mean, none of us are going to run for office. Is anybody running for office next year? I'm gonna answer me now.
No, no, sir.
If anybody's running for office, they should let us know so that we'll know how to join campaign. Anyway, coming back to it. Now, I'm assuming that job interviews are going to be one of the most tense positions that you're going to be in. And then you ask that question, who are you? Like if you ask me who am I in a job interview, I will start by say, in fact, in my current job, that was the beginning I start. That was the first thing I said. I said to the interview panel, if I worked for a drug lord, I would manage media relations and communications. This is to say that that's how much I really like the job that I do. I studied mass communication in school. I have a diploma and a master and bachelor's and a master's in strategic communication, and another master's in international affairs and diplomacy. I have done this. This is where I have been. These are the kind of places I have worked. These are the kind of things that I have done in my career. Because that who are you in that context of a job interview is who are you in this particular space. There's a scope there. They're not asking me who I am as a family man. They're not asking me who I am as a person of society, as a Nigerian citizen. They're asking me who I am within the confines or the scope of that particular job. So it is very, very important for us to understand. So the audience should immediately understand what you say, what you do, and why it matters. Your story must connect with the audience needs, context, and aspirations. Everybody who talks to you at every single time has the context that they are coming from, and they also have aspirations for what they want from you at that particular time. So at every point in time, your stories have to always connect to that aspiration and context. In every time that you're interacting with someone, try as much as possible to remove yourself from the situation and stay within the context of that particular conversation. This is why generally I always advise that if you're going to give a speech, I would prefer you write your speech that you are going to give and not just go and wing it. Because oftentimes when you go to wing your speech, you end up messing it up. If you go and wing your speech, you end up messing it up. So writing your speech allows you to stay within. Now, write in a conversational manner. Don't write in a monologue. Write in a dialogue. Repeat your messages across platforms and interaction. Consistency in tone, message, and values builds recognition and trust. It is very, very imperative and very, very important for you to always note that the more and more you repeat it consistently, the more and more it sinks in the head of the people that you're actually speaking to. Oh yeah, we are in the age of AI, and right now there's a lot of um, conversation going on as to what AI means. Oh my God, it's Skynet. Skynet is coming back. For those of us who watched Terminator and what's going to end, technology is going to come for all of us. And ABC, there is this dystopian mentality that we have for every time that technology has actually advanced. Now, these are four ways technology has revolutionized the world in the last 40 years. First, the calculator. When the calculator came, you can do a quick research. Now, before the advent of the calculator, we had what we called human calculators. There were people who could solve complex mathematics in seconds or in a few minutes. If you give it to them, they can, they'll solve it for you. Before the advent of calculators, these were the people who did complex mathematics for industrial settings. Because you always wonder, there are some buildings that we've had in Nigeria, in the world, that are 100 years old, that are 50 years old. How do they calculate for the height of the building? For those of us who are in construction, how do they calculate for the structural integrity of the building? They were human calculators who did this job. Now, when the calculator came, there was a lot of frantic reaction. People were like, oh my God, hey, this will make our children to stop thinking analytically. It will mess things up. There were lots of theories flying here and there as to the impacts that the calculator was going to have on the world. But on the flip side, what the calculator have done is that it has made complex mathematical computation fast and accurate. It has transformed finance, engineering, education, among other things. That's one. And the beauty of technological advancement oftentimes is that when technology advances to a certain level, human beings are too resilient to go extinct. We are too resilient to go extinct. The way we are built, the way the human body or life is built, your goal is to survive. Who remembers Mr. Ninja? Hello, guys?
We do.
Okay. If you remember Mr. Ninja, who else? Anybody else?
Yes, we do, sir.
I do, sir.
Okay, so somebody
I
should tell
do
me
too.
what does M stand for?
Movement.
Okay, another person tell me what does R stand for?
Reproduction.
Respiration.
Reproduction or respiration. What does one of the R is reproduction, the other one is respiration. What does N stand for?
Nutrition.
Nutrition. What does I stand for?
Irritability.
Ah, okay. It's either you guys are very old or you guys went to a very old secondary school. What does what does G stand for?
Growth.
Okay.
Growth, sir.
What does E stand for?
Excretion.
Excretion. It was excretion. And what does then the last R is
Respiration.
sorry?
Reproduction. The last R is reproduction.
Now, the reason I brought this up is one of the strong characteristics of human beings is irritability. Irritability is our ability to adapt for something to happen and then the way we respond to that particular issue. That's irritability. So the human body, like if you do a deep dive into research of and I'm going to be a bit sober here and careful with my words because this is a bit of a sensitive subject area. If you do a bit of a deep dive into people who kill themselves, who die by suicide, you find out that something something human had to have been broken in them. Have you ever tried to hurt yourself as a person? Like not maybe one of your intrusive thoughts in your head just takes the best of you, and then you'll notice that maybe if you drive, let's say for example you drive, no matter how much your mind veers off the fact that you're driving, because there's sometimes that you're driving and then you forget that you're driving. No matter how much your body, your mind is still conscious of the fact that you are driving, you're moving a machine. And you will notice that your brain will immediately snap you back into consciousness. In fact, let me tell you how much your body is, how much the irritability of human being is. If you hold your breath, that you want to kill yourself from holding your breath, your brain knocks you out. Your brain will knock you out and then continue to breathe unless there's something obstructing the physical respiratory system from breathing. So even if you close the nose, even if the nose cannot breathe at that time, the brain will